This is Jack White with a Monday morning message from your Capital District Go team, this one for June 1st, 2009. Last month, I began a 5-part series by telling how Jaguar climbed out of the automotive basement to win several Best Car awards. It seems that Ford Motor Company saw value in the Jaguar brand and its styling and bought the company. Then Ford set about fixing the things about Jags that didn't work well. I suggested that Kiwanis is a valuable brand like Jag, and we do many things well, but our clubs especially need major overhauls. This is the first of 4 messages that will talk about some of the problems I see our clubs are having and how we might fix them. The first topic involves how we get together. This discussion actually began last fall when Jill Mattinger of the International Headquarters told us about then-new Kiwanis Club satellites. Next, the soon-to-be president-elect of Kiwanis, Sylvester Neal, told us about what are called 1, 2, 3 clubs, and he did it even before our international board had approved them. Past Governor Art Riley then provided a general warning that, in his words, meetings can be fatal. And finally, the CEO of Kiwanis International, Rob Parker, discussed the difference between Kiwanis Classic and Kiwanis Next clubs. What ties all these themes together is a growing awareness that traditional Kiwanis meetings, what Rob Parker told us is being called Kiwanis Classic, these meetings now are not serving the needs of many clubs. I won't rehash all that was said, but people today tend to have different schedules, different preferences, yes, and different tolerances than those of my generation and maybe yours. The idea of spending a whole hour plus travel time every week attending even an interesting and well-run meeting simply doesn't cut it. This is especially true for business, professional, and government workers who have very little slack in their schedules. And a lot of our young people are telling us that they simply find our traditional meetings boring. They want to do service work and have fun and meet just often enough to keep the club functioning. One option that Kiwanis Classic clubs can use is the club satellites. In her interview last fall, Jill Mattinger called our classic clubs the Gong, Song, and Prayer groups. I'll admit my club is one of them. We meet every week at noon, and we're considering a satellite that would meet at another time and maybe not weekly. I've talked to several of our former members and some of our members who seldom attend, and without exception, they have told me that if we start a club satellite, they would be interested. Those people would remain members of the club and participate in its activities and our projects, but they would get together when, where, and how often they wanted. I've talked to other clubs that are considering a satellite, maybe in a nearby community, that cannot support its own Kiwanis club now, but might later. And just imagine how a satellite group could serve your club and its members. Use your imagination. The 1, 2, 3 concept is more radical, but I happen to think that it gives us a peek at where most Kiwanis clubs will be heading in the very near future. The concept itself is simple. A club that follows this model has 1 hour of meetings per month, enough to do its business and a little more. They have 2 hours of fun or social activities for the members and their families and guests. So that makes Kiwanis something that helps your family instead of takes you away from it. And finally, these clubs that I'm talking about, the 1, 2, 3 clubs, do what young people are telling us they want by providing 3 hours of service work each month for each member. The bottom line is that we no longer can say that a Kiwanis club will stay healthy by having meetings once a week with a meal and a program. There is simply too much evidence to the contrary. Well, how can a club change without going whole hog and adopting the entire 1, 2, 3 program? I know clubs, for example, that are skipping one meeting each month and having a social or fun event. Others are substituting a service project for a meeting. In short, this 1-2-3 concept is one that can be varied and adapted to what you perceive the needs of your club to be. This, I believe, is what the future holds, at least for clubs that want to keep their rosters full and avoid being a group of men and, yes, women who grow old together. Just don't wait until your club has lost its younger members or no longer can recruit them to consider making some of these changes. And finally, remember the Kiwanis mission statement. You know it, we all do. We're a global organization of volunteers and so on. Nowhere in that statement does it say that we meet every week for a meal and a program. In fact, the mission statement says nothing at all about meetings. Rather, it defines Kiwanis by the service we perform for children and for our communities. Everything else, if you will, is window dressing. That's another Monday morning message. Watch for the other messages in this series about how to make your clubs better and stronger. Until next week, for the Capital District Growth Team, this is Jack White saying, thank you for listening.